Reveal the mystery of the missing fish of Ash Creek. Then we'll show you how you can help us fight a tiny new invader in our lakes. But first tonight, we head to the high country, where some very special young people got the chance of a lifetime. All that and much more coming up right now on Arizona Wildlife Views.
He was awesome. He didn't want to wait around for nothing.
They're overcomers.
He was gung-ho. He wanted to do everything. He wouldn't tell you ever no. He would just keep going and going and going.
Yesterday morning we went out and it was pretty brutal conditions. It snowed all night. It didn't let up. It was windy. We'd get to our setups and I would ask Travis, hey, are you getting cold? And he'd just whisper, let's stay a little longer, in just hopes that, just another minute and something would come in. I was just impressed, and I know my feet were just so cold, and I know his hands were and feet were, but he never asked one time, hey, let's go, let's get back into the truck. So I just thought he was a trooper.
We're hosting children with physical disabilities, and we're taking them out mule deer hunting, and in this case we have one hunter that's after a mountain lion. And so we're excited about having them with us as our guest.
We put together this hunt for some kids with disabilities or limitations. We ended up with 3 young men up here. 2 of them are cancer survivors, and the other is a young man with a disability, a birth defect. And it seemed like they're having a pretty good time.
It was very fun, exciting. Hoping to catch anything, but I didn't. But it was still very fun sitting there. I was doing varmint hunting. I did see a bobcat, but I just didn't get a shot at it. It was moving. It was too far. We stopped and started up the hill, and there were 4. So we went back down, and we caught back up with them a little bit later down the road. We tried back up, see if there was any bucks, and they ran across the road. So we went back to the truck. Next thing you know, there's 2 bucks.
So hold on, wait till he sticks his head down. Okay, go ahead.
For me, it's been a great experience just watching these kids and listen to the stories they tell when they come back in and they talk about the animals they've seen. One of the kids that I brought up, Travis, he got to see a bobcat the other day, and he's having a great time up here, it seems like. I know that from my standpoint, I've been with my son out 2 days in a row, and we've seen some tremendous animals. We've seen some deer.
Just keep the tree in between you and the deer. Go ahead and move that,
I got a rabbit with a crossbow.
He shot at 2 rabbits, hit 1. I think that was the highlight of his hunt. He can go home happy right now. And this morning, yesterday evening, we drove to all the roads, mountain roads, and just doing a spot and stalk whenever we could see anything. We could try to get close enough for him to get a shot within 40 yards. Is the key for the crossbow. If anybody out there has got a disabled child, this is a great opportunity. Even if hunting has not been a part of your lifestyle, it's just the outdoor experience. It's not just coming to killing things. It's just enjoying the outdoors. And I think this is a great way to get in nature, let the kids have a blast, and do something wholesome and not something that's going to lead them in the wrong direction.
It's an opportunity to give kids a chance to try something that maybe they've not tried before, and seeing them enjoy it. One of my favorite things is the 3 young men that are here on this particular outing. When they got here on Thursday, they all kind of sat in their own area in the dining hall and stuff. And today, when they all come back in for lunch, here this is the 3rd day they've been here. They all ended up getting a place where they could all sit together and talk about what they were doing and everything else. So it just showed how much of a companionship is developed with these 3 young men just being here doing this thing together, and how much fun they've been having getting out there doing it. And that's what makes it worthwhile.
We had an inner tube and like a surfboard hooked up to the 2 mules, and we were going up and down the street.
He's just like any other boy.
Getting up so darn early sucks. I can tell you that right now.
Time to rise and shine, time to go get some deer. Come on, get up, get up, get up.
Don't ever do it again.
It's hard to put in words the joy I get from seeing him enjoy the sport. That kid has more passion for hunting than a lot of people I know.
What you get out of it so far exceeds what you would ever expect. I don't think, regardless of how high your expectations were, man, these kids, they exceed your expectations.
Ash Creek, located in the Tonto National Forest just above Salt River Canyon, is not just another beautiful place to visit. It also has a mysterious secret. Where did all the fish go?
In 2000 or 2001, Game and Fish Department got a call in the Mesa Regional Office from a private landowner that had recently bought 640 acres of land along Ash Creek at a place called Chrysotile. And he had spent a lot of time hiking it and looking around, doing wildlife things, and come to realize that he never saw any fish in the creek and couldn't figure out why, didn't know why, so he called the Game and Fish Department. So we checked what few records we had on the area and found that we couldn't identify any stocking history for the stream, have no survey history for the stream, and had no clue why there were no fish in it, and if there had been fish in it, where they might have gone.
Further research only turned up anecdotal stories of miners who used to fish the creek in their off time back when the old Chrysotile mine was operating. That mine has been closed now for about 40 years, and unfortunately, the stories left behind gave no indication of what type of fish have been found in Ash Creek.
But lo and behold, we come and do some surveys up and down the creek and can't find any fish in it, and decide that it's a prime locality for reintroducing some of our native species that are becoming more and more rare due to the human impacts to the environment.
But like every good fish tale, this one should start at the beginning. Before any fish can be released, a lot of things have to happen. First, you have to collect a fish species you want to go into Ash Creek from somewhere else. On this day, Kirk Gill and Aaron Kern from the Arizona Game and Fish Department Fisheries Branch and Dave Smith from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife are collecting 2 species from Canyon Creek.
We're getting the desert suckers and the speckled dace here because they're abundant here, and because they're a close relative neighbor to Ash Creek. Ash Creek also is a tributary to the Salt River, and so these fish here should be most adapted to that type of system that Ash Creek is.
Kurt is carrying a device that allows them to stun the fish just long enough for them to be scooped up in nets and transferred to buckets.
Okay, we're using a backpack electrofishing unit. Basically, what it does, we have the handheld anode and a rat tail, which is the cathode or the negative, and the fish are drawn to the positive or the anode, and so they come up for a second, they get stunned, and we dip them out and put them in a bucket, and they're just as happy as can be then.
Once they have collected the number of fish they are looking for, in this case 300 speckled dace and about 200 desert suckers, then the buckets are carried back to the road. You can tell that Aaron is the newest employee because he gets to do all the bucket hauling. The fish then go into a specially designed truck where they will be transported to Bubbling Ponds hatchery.
So with this project, the fish were collected from streams throughout the state and brought here to Bubbling Ponds Fish Hatchery, where we're quarantining them for a period of time so that we can make sure that we're not transporting things that we don't want to be transporting.
The fish that are going to Ash Creek have come from several streams in different parts of the state. They are quarantined at the hatchery for about 2 weeks, and during that time they are treated for parasites so those bugs won't be introduced into the creek that is free of them. All this handling can be hard on fish, but in the big picture, it is the best thing to do.
Some species seem to handle the quarantine a little better than others. So we do have some mortality and some loss. But that mortality is a lot better than moving something into a new system that later is going to kill all the fish. So, I mean, potentially we could take fish straight out of one stream and we could put them in another stream and we wouldn't have any mortality. But then a year down the road, we could have 100% fish kill in the new stream because all of a sudden those fish are all infected with a serious parasite that's going to cause a lot of problems. Another important thing about sort of having this intermediate step for bringing fish into, say, a fish hatchery rather than just transporting them directly from one stream to another is it's also easy to transport larval fish of species that we don't want. So say we're going to go collect a fish out of the Verde River or something like that and move them into Ash Creek. Well, Ash Creek right now is free of all of the introduced species, the species like smallmouth bass or channel catfish or flathead catfish that prey on the native fish. And that's one of the reasons that we're doing this project is to give the native fish an advantage and put them in a system where the introduced fish aren't present.
Making sure that these species are located in numerous waterways gives them a better chance to survive and flourish.
Because if you have all your native fish in just a few streams, they're more susceptible to catastrophic events such as flooding or disease. It's a lot easier to wipe out the population. And so if we transfer the fish around, make larger populations, the likelihood is a lot less that we're going to lose these fish down the road.
That's a huge Nichthyes osculus, speckled dace.
Once the quarantine is over, the fish are trucked to the Ash Creek area, and from there they are loaded into special coolers and hiked to the stream. Finally, their long journey is over, and they are released into their new home, and once again, there are fish in Ash Creek. Out of 35 native fish in Arizona, one is extinct, and almost 75% are federally listed, candidates for listing, or listed as a wildlife species of special concern. In fact, this project is a milestone because it's the first conservation stocking of round-tailed chub in state history, and that contributes to the conservation agreement the department developed and hopes to preclude the need to list round-tailed chub. The Arizona Game and Fish Department will continue with translocation programs like this one to make sure our native fish are not lost.
Arizona lakes are used to welcoming thousands of visitors every year who come and enjoy all the recreation they have to offer. But a new visitor is creating quite a stir, and not in a good way.
Aquatic invasive species have become a growing threat to Arizona's waters, Arizona's waterways, Arizona's fish and wildlife resources. So it's something that we've been quite concerned about for quite a number of years, and we're really trying to reach out to boaters and anglers and outdoors persons in general about the risks that these can pose to our wildlife resources.
The latest aquatic invader to make its way here is the Quagga Muscle. It was discovered in Lake Mead in January of 2007, and although the tiny mollusks seem harmless, if left unchecked, they can cause substantial damage to our waterways.
Quagga mussel and zebra mussel don't really get very big and wouldn't seem to be much of a threat. A full-grown quagga mussel or zebra mussel is not much bigger than my thumbnail, and yet they're so prolific that within just a short period of time there can be millions upon millions of them. These little mussels are encrusters. That means that they like to stick to things with a super glue thread on their shell. Quagga mussel and zebra mussel can encrust just about anything that's hard. That means your boat, that means your boat motor, that means the interior parts of your boat motor, like cooling lines that will help to protect your engine from overheating. They can also encrust docks, boat ramps, just about anything.
That also includes hard surfaces like concrete and pipes, so they can clog water intakes, dams, and even canals. These mussels also pose a threat to wildlife resources because they are filter feeders. so they consume large portions of the microscopic plants and animals that form the base of the food chain in our lakes.
It's unlikely that our lakes will collapse ecologically, but there will be changes, and they're not changes that we're looking forward to. Quagga mussel can compete with other kinds of wildlife for food resources. They can shift the nature of the algae that lives in these waters. All of that will have its impact on the food chain and on the kinds of fish that folks are used to and expect to be able to fish for.
So far, the quagga mussel has not been found in our interior lakes, and the Arizona Game and Fish Department is asking boaters to help keep it that way by not accidentally giving these little hitchhikers a free ride from one body of water to another. Before leaving a lake or any other waterway, always do the following. Clean the hull of your boat. Drain the water from your boat. Dry off the exterior of your boat. Inspect all exposed surfaces. Remove all plant and animal material. After you leave the lake, give your boat a good bath. It's amazing all of the little places these tiny creatures can hide.
Now what we did with scrubbing the boat down is basically if you've been in a waterway that has the quagga mussels, they can be on the surface and it just kind of, sometimes it'll feel like sandpaper. But the main thing is anything that holds water on that boat or the trailer needs to be flushed out, cleaned out, and dried out. Best case scenario is for this boat to set out of the water for 7 days and dry out. Well, if you're a fisherman like myself, that's a little bit long. If the fish are biting, you don't want to wait 7 days. But take the time and wash your boat, drain it, and dry it out the best you can. Just for an example, we just got done washing this boat. I just wanted to show you how things hold water. There's water that's being held in low areas in the boat. Not only right here visible, but all throughout the boat. And you want to make sure all that stuff dries. A lot of these boats with underdeck storage have a lip sticking up to keep the dry boxes inside. But around these lips hold water. That can stay wet. The carpet's going to go down in there and the carpet's going to keep it wet for a long time. If you hadn't washed it out, this is what you end up with. It's still wet when you go home. If you don't open that up, that edge around that box will stay wet for days. You go to the lake again, you get water in it or you wash it, it goes into your bilge. They're still alive, and unless you get them drained out and flushed out, you could be transporting them onto another lake. You know, and that's what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent transportation of the quagga mussels or the veagers into other waterways that don't have them right now. It's going to be a real tough fight, but if everybody tries to be a little diligent about washing their boats and paying attention to draining them out, you know, we're going to slow down the process anyway.
The quagga mussel is likely to stay here, but with help from Arizona anglers and boaters, we can hope to control the spread of this and other invasive species that could harm our beautiful lakes and streams.
There is a rather common-looking building at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum near Tucson that houses a very unexpected hope for the future, the Tarahumara frog. Today, under the exposed pipes of a biological laboratory, several Tarahumara frogs are being carefully identified.
Perfect.
Before they begin a journey. A journey that will take them back to a land where they used to live but have not been seen in over 20 years. A cardinal keeps watch as these biologists make the final checks on the outdoor ponds where these frogs have been raised. Dozens of these frogs used to live in Santa Cruz County back in the 1970s. As frogs go, the Tarahumara is medium-sized, up to 4 1/2 inches long. They are greenish-brown with small brown to black spots on the body and dark crossbars on the legs. By 1983, they were gone, most likely from disease or pollution, but populations still survived in Mexico. This is called extirpation. Mike Shreddle of the Arizona Game and Fish Department explains.
Extirpated is a term that's used to apply to a local extinction of a population. You might still have other populations of a species still found within its historical range, but periodically populations for natural and unnatural reasons become what's called extirpated. They go locally extinct.
Locally extinct from Arizona, but there was still hope. Eggs from the Mexico populations were propagated here in the U.S. and are now being carried back to spots where they have the best chances of survival. The reintroduction starts early one morning, deep in the Santa Rita Mountains southeast of Tucson. Biologists ready their equipment. Tadpoles are separated out and sealed in containers with battery-powered air pumps.
So you go right here. You can put this at the bottom of your pack.
Young frogs, called metamorphs, are sealed in plastic containers with lettuce leaves acting as shock absorbers.
They look really healthy.
Adult frogs are packed in pillowcases for the journey.
Why am I in this pillowcase?
Biologists and volunteers load up,
Getting ready to get re-released into the wild,
and move out on a long trail into the Santa Ritas. Special care is taken to make sure the frogs are safe.
We don't want the animals to get overheated, so that's why we sent the first group up and sent them out at 6 in the morning. And the second thing is we're trying to avoid jostling them.
We are not saying where the release site was at to protect the frogs, and I'm not sure you would be able to find it anyway. We crossed into a wilderness area and eventually went off the trail on our journey. A few times we stopped to make sure things were cool with our cargo.
Everything looks good so far. The tadpoles are moving around okay, and I think everyone's pretty well hydrated.
Soon it's back on the trail again. A few of the biologists have spent over 20 years gaining the necessary permits and approvals to repatriate the Tarahumara.
We've carefully analyzed the effects of this reestablishment from a variety of perspectives, not just the frog perspective, but from human perspective, from other organisms that live in this habitat. And then, of course, we've had our share of bureaucratic red tape to live up to and comply with.
The frog containers are placed in the water here to allow them to acclimate to the water temperature. It's an awesome feeling knowing you are doing something this direct to enhance the biological diversity of our ecosystem. It should also be noted that this project does not cost you, the taxpayer, a single dime. Most of the money comes from the Arizona Lottery's Heritage Fund.
We use a lot of heritage dollars in these projects, and awful lot of volunteer dollars too. Many of the people who are here today on a Saturday are private citizens who just have an interest in conservation.
These spots have been handpicked, and it doesn't take long for the Tarahumara to set up shop, hunting for bugs and flies and finding the best spots to stay out of harm's way. One danger they face right off is this predaceous beetle, commonly called a toe biter. We catch as many as we can to give these frogs a fighting chance, but a few of the Tarahumara fall prey to their paralyzing bite.
It's a hard life out in these ponds for a frog. There are all kinds of predators. In noodling for frogs, I have certainly been bitten by something that I couldn't identify that just made me say a little more than ouch.
We've done everything we can for them at this point, and they must make it on their own. Soon, everyone falls into silence, watching the frogs take their place. It's a time to reflect on the future and to savor the moment at hand.
I happen to think frogs are aesthetically beautiful, and the whole idea of metamorphosis is just totally magic to me.
As the sun moves overhead and filters through the trees, our group begins their return journey. For Mike Shreddle, this is just the beginning.
You know, really, that we're at the first step here. The real satisfaction will come when we see reproducing populations of Tarahumara frogs, not just in this canyon, but in other canyons as well in Arizona.